Hi, everyone. I'm so excited to have Leslie Shields of the Shields Agency. She is an EO member from, is it the Fort Worth, uh,
Fort Worth. Yeah.
Fort Worth chapter?
Yeah.
And she is the proud owner of the Shields Agency, which is a female
Mhm,
driven insurance agency specializing in
mhm,
individual, Medicare, and small group benefits.
mhm,
She's also a mom
mhm.
and does a lot of roles in EO, MyEO Women's National Delegate, and also the incoming social chair on the local board. And she's also the president of the West Meadowbrook Neighborhood Association. Welcome
Association.
to the EO podcast, Leslie.
Yeah. Awesome. Yeah. So actually, I guess that bio is a tad bit, maybe June outdated. So I am the social chair right now for EO Fort Worth.
Good.
I'm the outgoing president of West Meadowbrook Neighborhood Association and have taken a position on our city library advisory council. So all the things.
And you're also a mom.
And I'm a mom. Yeah, my little boy Harrison just turned 3 like 2 weeks ago. So
I mean, we
yeah.
really love having women entrepreneurs, especially EO women entrepreneurs on the podcast, because I think the question that people always ask, like, how do you do it all?
Mhm.
So maybe you can start with your journey
Yeah. Yeah.
and
So
share. Yeah.
I knew both my parents were self-employed. My dad was a financial advisor. My mom was a child therapist. And so I knew kind of coming out of college and being in my corporate jobs that my last corporate gig was my last corporate gig. I knew I wanted to do something on my own after that. Didn't really kind of went through a process of what I was going to do. Didn't really know where it was, but had a friend who was selling health insurance. And I was like, oh, she travels a lot. She looks like she makes good money. That sounds fun. Let's do that. And I sales has always been in my wheelhouse. And so went and joined her kind of on a structured 1099 downline situation and then ended up going completely on my own. I was there for probably 5 years and I went on my own in November 2019, right before the pandemic. I got my agency license and found out we were pregnant at the same time. So that was a journey. And so it was building, and really like the health insurance side of the business was exploding during COVID because instability and uncertainty brings the need for consultants. People were losing jobs, getting jobs, and obviously health coverage was top of mind. So while we were exploding, I was actually really sick with hyperemesis gravidasiosis, which is lots and lots of vomiting during pregnancy. So I brought on a team. I knew I wanted to build a team, but didn't know it was going to be that soon. But brought on a team to kind of really save the business because I was also due November, early November, which is open enrollment for health insurance. And that just was all not going to work out real well, especially if it was just me. So started building the team. And I've been really tapped into my network for most of the team building that we've done. And then last spring, brought on kind of it's a separate division, but brought on a partner to do property and casualty. So home, auto, and commercial, which has been its own fun little journey as that industry is kind of also losing its mind right now. So we're a few years in. I guess what 2023 would have been 2021, 22, 23, 3 years. So last spring. So we're about 3.5 years in on the agency. And yeah, trying to scale and lessons, learning lessons about people and employees and what all that looks like. So, and then just really having to ground through it all while still trying to manage it all.
Well, I find that the best CEOs always are good in sales because
Yeah.
then you have the revenue and then we start learning other things, right? So it's
Mhm.
cash first, right? It's cash
Mhm.
strategy, then people, and then execution. Those are like the
Mhm.
four pillars. So you alluded a little bit to sales. Do you have
Yeah.
any sales tips for people who are listening? How did you become such a good
I think
salesperson?
so much of it is just follow up, right? Like, and I often forget that not everybody is a born salesperson and know to do these things. And so I always tell my team, I'm like, when you're trying to contact somebody, it's phone call, text, email, all at the same time. Email, phone call, text. It's, hey, I left you a voicemail. Hey, I sent you a text. It's all three because you don't know. And sometimes it's a Facebook message, right? You really don't know, or LinkedIn, how somebody communicates best. And not just the initial contact, but it's the, hey, I have your quote, haven't heard back from you. 1, 2, 3. And I always ask my team, you haven't heard from somebody. Did you try X, Y, and Z to get in touch with them? Oh no, I just sent an email. I'm like, bang, head in a wall. You cannot just send an email. Like, we get thousands of emails. Um, and so, yeah, just teaching those real sales follow-up skills. And work with my team on being prepared with verbiage. And so whether it's somebody who is overcoming an objection, or somebody who's unhappy with something, or somebody who, through those things, it's practicing that verbiage. And I try to tell them, I'm like, here's some words to get you through that. Here's some things you can say to be prepared for that conversation. I like sticky notes too. So like the little labels that you can put them on your laptop, right by your mouse pad, or put them on a whiteboard somewhere in your office, of things that you can go back to when you need those lines and those words. So,
What do you look for in a good salesperson?
gosh, it's tough. I think a lot of it is just somebody who's going to do the work. I hire a lot of agents who have never been in insurance before, and I'm okay with that. But it's somebody who's going to do the work, but it's also on my part taking good talent and seeing where they're best. Like, I've got an agent right now who I really feel like is going to be excellent at inside sales, right? Getting the quotes together, ready to go, super good at presenting to the clients. But is she going to go network and get the leads? No, that's not her thing, right? But it's being able to see that and then develop those positions around people's strengths versus just saying, oh, you're not a fit, let's bring somebody else on. Because I think that by working with people who are dedicated and have good match your company values and want to be there and are working with and discovering what they're good at and helping them mold that, to me, is a lot more successful than reaching back in and trying again.
Yeah. So do you have any superstars?
Oh God, I have all kinds of superstars, but they're all superstars in different ways,
Mm-hmm.
right? I've got an agent who's just killer at the individual market. I've got another one who is my director of operations, holds me together on everything that I am not good at, right? Like, she's the complete opposite of me. I've got an assistant who's been with me for 7 years, who knows a lot of things that nobody else can find or knows how to do. But everybody has their superstar strengths in their own kind of pockets. But I think too, like, I learned one of my key employees left me in September, and she helped me build my company. And I think I got really comfortable relying on that superstar and kind of going through that loss and then rebuilding from it at what is our busy time of year, right? Has taught me a lot of things. Taught me a lot of things. So really, it's yes, having your superstars, but not getting too comfortable and not doing the check-ins and going, oh, they got it. And then when you get in, like, I've gotten in after she's gone, and I'm like, I really had this picture in my head that something was happening that it wasn't.
Did you
So
know she was going to leave?
no,
Was she preparing
no,
to leave? Like, did she start her own firm, agency?
no, but she did go to another one, and she was very dishonest about it. It hasn't, I mean, it's violating non-competes and all the things that we all have in place, right? So, and then what do you do with it after that is the thing. So just all of these lessons, all of
Yeah.
these big business owner lessons, and then
Yeah.
having to like manage that, but also keep it together for everybody else, which
Right.
is where EO is just like, I
Right.
mean, the foundation is amazing.
Right. How did you hear about EO?
My husband was an accelerator. Yeah.
So
So
two
he was,
entrepreneurs in a home. That's
uh-huh.
fun.
Two different
Tell,
businesses. Ah, it's
tell us
fun.
about that.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a whole other journey. So he's actually a video production guy. He set me up in his studio today with like the good lighting and stuff for our
Pretty, very pretty.
podcast. Yeah. So he does video production and marketing and has his company, and he's had it for probably 10 years before I started my entrepreneur journey. And it's been, it's really, really good in a lot of ways because we understand what the other one's going through. Like when I was completely melting, trying to put people and butts in the right seats right before open enrollment, I was a lot to deal with. And I think that if he had been, the corporate guy who didn't understand where I was, it would have looked a lot different. But he had been there with his company in the past and, was incredibly supportive of what I was going through to pull it all together. But it's also hard because we're, have to check ourselves pretty regularly. Now that our son's 3, he's like, I know when you guys are gone, I could pay. I like, he realizes. So a lot of times it'll be, I'm at a networking event and he's home, or he's home and I'm gone, and back and forth. And then we realized that it was really starting to affect our son and that we weren't spending enough, all 3 of us, time together. And so we've had to kind of, just reset our priorities because it is crazy. We're both just going all the time. And we do about a month vacation in the summer where we just go. We've done it 2 years in a row. We'll do it again this year because it really helps us just kind of like reset after the crazy.
Wow. Well, I think it's so important, to, like you said, reprioritize after you see. Did something happen like with your
My son
3-year-old?
just said something. He was like, "Where's dad?" We woke up one morning. He's like, "Where's daddy?" Because it was early and he was already gone. And I was like, he's like, "And mommy and daddy." And I was like, "Oh, this is affecting you. We've been gone a lot." Got it.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
having that intuition, that
Mhm.
mom's intuition.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
anyway, back to that employee that left. Like, I
Yeah.
think everyone always has that. Like, I just
Mhm.
got off a Zoom with another entrepreneur who basically also was blindsided.
Yeah.
A partner left, and
Yeah.
apparently he's been planning it since
Yeah.
July.
Yeah.
And then you're thinking like, we spent family holidays together,
Yeah.
we vacation together. Like,
Yeah.
is it the betray? Did you feel betrayed? When this person left, or were you just
Yeah. I think
blindsided?
to me it's betrayal, but it's also like it's a self-realization that while I thought we talked all the time and I thought our communication was good and I thought the door was open for her to come and talk to me, that I had to check myself, and maybe it wasn't, you know what I mean? Like maybe it wasn't as open. I did realize that her assistant, who had kind of raised the white flag on her own position a few months ago, had reached out to me directly and was like, "Hey, I really think," she wanted a raise. She's like, "This job is," she came back from maternity leave and she was like, "This job is more than it was. And I need to talk about this." And instead of me handling that call with her assistant, just me and her assistant, I brought her into the call because I'm like, of course I'm going to bring her into the call. It's her assistant, right? She's like my person. But what I didn't realize is the problem was with her. And because
Wow.
I brought her into that call, there was no safe space for her assistant to say, I am doing her job.
When did you find that out, that the assistant was doing the job?
After the employee left. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow, wow,
After the
wow.
employee left. When we had put up promoted one of our other people to kind of take over this role and shifted it a little bit and reformulated it. And I was like telling her, I was like, I feel really good about this. I feel like you guys are a team. And she's like, no, it's great. She's super awesome. I'd pretty much been doing the other person's job for months. And
Wow.
I'm like, why didn't I know that? I'm like, oh, wait a
Right.
second. She tried to tell me.
She did.
She tried to tell me.
But because you brought her in, she
Mhm.
couldn't
She
because she
couldn't.
is a problem. Ah, so that's why she was a superstar too, because
Yeah.
of this assistant. And is the
Yeah.
assistant still there?
Yeah.
Oh, thank goodness.
Yeah.
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 Isn't that like, I don't know,
Yeah.
for me, it's just self realization of like, we
Yeah.
think certain things are happening, but then what what triggers and processes do we put in place to like really know what's going on?
Right. Right. So do you have any insights?
Well, right now I'm back in, right? I'm back. I'm not, I am super in in
Yeah.
every department
Right.
and every place,
Right.
honestly, because it's our busy season and I have to be.
Yeah.
And I haven't been the last few years because I was like, it was comfort, it was great. And I've been just executing from a top level. But now I'm like, hands are dirty in each department. And so I'm really able to see processes, procedures, what's working, what isn't working. And I think it's the long-term lesson for this, and I was talking to another EO female member, and she said anybody who thinks they can build their business without being in is delusional. Like if you're going to scale, you have got to get your hands dirty. And so even when you build out, of course you can't be in charge of everything forever, but even when you build out your teams, it's like, what does that rotation look like? Every 6 weeks, am I spending a few days with this department? And I think those are the kind of things I want to put in place moving forward. So that way it's not in a meeting, right? You're not having a quarterly meeting where they're telling you what's going on. It's you're hopping on calls, just getting in and seeing what their processes really are. But it's been a big lesson.
But I think what's great about EO is that they teach us to create these processes for us, right? We're
Mm-hmm.
building businesses, we're not building a job, right? Like, because
Mm-hmm.
you could still, I mean, your plan still is to one day,
Yeah.
not be so in the
Yeah.
making bread, right? Like
Yeah.
you're looking at how can I improve this process? How can I make sure that this never ever happens again, that I'm blindsided,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Well, and how do you verify that processes are actually being implemented?
Right, right. That's
You
also,
can develop processes all day long, but people actually using them are two different stories.
yeah, yeah. So how do you tell?
I think it's just getting in. I really
Yeah,
do. I think
yeah.
it's getting dirty in each department so often, whatever works for you, just to really know. And my team's virtual too. So it's not like I can go sit in a department, make sure thing is working, but it's, you know, hopping on those calls, it's doing the regular check-ins. And I think for me, I'm starting to pay attention. Like it's what are people saying? So I have a weekly check-in with one of my departments and I'm like, okay, I'm listening. Let's actually see the data. I want to know exactly what you're doing. How is that going? How can I help? Where are you on this? And really understanding, not just thinking I understand what they're doing, but really understanding what they're doing. And then I think people tell you things, and a lot of times we're so busy, we're not really listening. We're not really listening.
I love that how you're always self-directing it back to yourself. Like it was,
Mm-hmm.
me, and I think that shows like a mastery of entrepreneurship. It's not their fault. It's just like, what could I have done better?
Mm-hmm.
I love
Yeah.
that.
Yeah. I think it has to be, right?
Yeah.
Because so many people are dependent on us that just blaming others is not how processes are. I don't get better. The company doesn't get better, right? It's figuring out how we mold and shift and what I can do to facilitate a better experience.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. And it also looks like because you're also juggling so many different roles, right? You're
Mm-hmm.
also in EO.
Mm-hmm.
How do you manage your time?
Lots of help. Somebody asked me that the other day. They're like, Leslie, you're doing everything. And we have a fantastic nanny who makes our life function. I mean, just she's amazing. And our son loves her. And that piece of my life and having her makes me very comfortable. Also, I have assistants. I mean, I've got, it's directing. Okay, we brought on Jana Franklin, an EOer, has a VA company. We started working with one of her VAs earlier this year, and it's been life changing. She's amazing, and it's just saying, and I use her, and I've told my business partner, she's quite a bit younger than me, and I'm like, if you need her to make a doctor's appointment because you can't physically stop to do it, ask her to make your doctor's appointment. She's like, but that's a personal thing. I'm like, yeah. When you're not busy with those menial personal tasks like that, you're able to work. I always say, think about your value an hour, right? Like if it's better to pay someone to do those types of tasks, you have to do, even if it comes, even when it comes to laundry, like in your house, right? Like just making sure that your time is being spent on top priorities. I think is really the biggest piece for sure. And a lot of it's just asking for help,
Which a
asking for
lot
help.
of us don't like to do because everyone always relies on us.
Mm-hmm.
How did you get good at asking for help?
Honestly, I think it's a natural trait. It's something I have people say that, maybe their families are uncomfortable hiring household help, or even with my business partner, I'm like, you've got to get, solid childcare and that kind of thing. My mom always, we always had a housekeeper. My mom worked, my dad worked, they're both entrepreneurs. We had a housekeeper, and that's what it was. And that kept our household sane. Also, I wasn't a mom until I was like 37 years old, didn't get married until I was 35 years old. And so I had seen a lot of things that my friends were going through. And I kind of knew going into it that I wouldn't survive without a village and a team. We read a book, Hunt, Gather, Parent, and I can't remember the author. She's an NPR reporter. And it talks all about how for millennia, parents were never meant to do this by themselves. It was always a village that raised children. And I kind of think about not just with my home life, but also with my business. Like, there's just no way this happens without the village. And so it's a mindset.
What I really love about asking for help is you get the monkey off your back. I went to EMP, the Entrepreneur's
Yeah.
Master's Program at MIT, and they just said, what there's also, they are like, you also have to watch out for that one employee who's trying to put the monkey back on you, like,
Mm-hmm.
solve this for me.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
No. Get that monkey off your back. There
Mm-hmm.
you go.
Yeah.
Because it really helps. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. And I think some people are like that, and you just have to redirect them. I think we want to be helpful, and we're like, oh, they're asking me a question, but you have to say, you know what? I
Right.
need you to go to,
Right.
Susie over here to ask that question. Or I left some chat. So like a lot of us we use Teams, a lot of people use Slack, and I'm leaving conversations, and I'm like, okay, you guys, this is great, but I don't need to be in here. And I use the words overstimulated a lot. I'm like, I'm
Yeah.
overstimulated right now, and you guys got this, so I'm out.
Mm.
And just kind of minimizing how much is getting thrown at me, because I think that's part of it. That's my biggest trigger, is like when I get overstimulated. Most entrepreneurs, we're all ADHD, we're all like, I think a lot of us have sensory processing, and we're like, whoa, because everybody needs us at every second of every
Yeah.
day.
Yeah.
And so then, God, I can't even sit. Went to a restaurant the other night, and the music was really loud, and we're like, oh my God, can you please turn that down?
And it's good that you know that about yourself.
Yeah.
Do you have any daily habits that also help you calm down, or
Bring down.
yeah,
You know
or
what? I feel like,
routines?
I've got a couple. I strength train twice a week. I've got, try and do 1 or 2 walks. I've got, y'all, so I put tennis shoes in my office. I ordered new tennis shoes just to keep in my office drawer, and put about 10 pairs of socks in there. And so that when I have like a 30-minute carve out, because I don't have time to like make it to the gym every day, right? That's not in my life. But when I have time to get a carve out, I put the shoes on and I go. And just having those there makes that possible. Otherwise, I'm like, oh, I can't walk in these shoes. And so just that kind of thing, and when I'm super overwhelmed, getting out and doing something different. I would say most days though, I am home because our nanny leaves at 2:30. She's got her kids and picks them up and that kind of thing. And that's just our schedule. And I'm home most days by like 2:30. And I'm kind of done by then, right? Like, so much, not that there's things for me to do, but if I am still, working or catching up, I'm probably horizontal somewhere, whether it's like on my bed or the lazy boy. And I come home, and sometimes I have to go into the dark room for a few minutes, right? Because it's all been a lot. And I've put so much out since the time I got up that morning that it has to come down. It has to get quiet for just a little bit.
So you'll work really hard first, and
Mm-hmm.
then relax. Like, I have a friend
Mm-hmm.
in Hawaii who's also an EO, and she
Mm-hmm.
surfs, and she doesn't start work until 10. But then
Yeah.
between 10 and 2, she is
Uh-huh.
just driving because
Solid. Yeah.
she's so happy because she went surfing,
Yeah.
and it's really 4 hours, like strong 4 hours, because isn't it
Yeah.
true that, I mean, people say that they work 8 hours, but really, are they working a full 8 hours? Look at your
Yeah.
face.
Well, it's like it's not efficient, right? So
Yeah.
like if we're scrolling and waiting
Yeah.
for emails to come in for us to
Yeah.
respond to something,
Yeah.
that's not time well spent.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. That's why I love how you tell your salespeople to, like, phone, text, email, right? Phone,
All at one
text,
time.
email. Like, it's just like that's so efficient, instead of
Yeah.
like, okay, well, I already texted them. Let me wait a couple hours. Like, that is so efficient.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You got to do it right now.
Yeah. I'm like that
All
too.
of it.
Now.
Yeah. I know.
Yeah.
And it's so funny. It's like I do come on really strong because everything, and I have to be aware of that because everything for me is just get it done. Just
Yeah.
I'm a Virgo. There's no space in my life for not just getting things done. Um, and so
Right.
sometimes people are like, I'm not there. I'm
Right.
not you. I need a second. My husband is a processor. And I'm like, just do it.
Yeah. What's his sign?
He's a Cancer.
Yeah. But they're supposed to be good with their hands, right? Cancer
Yeah.
women?
Oh,
Yeah,
yeah. He
right?
like, and yeah,
The
he
video
fixes.
editing or right? Yeah.
Yeah. And then he
Yeah.
fixes stuff like at
Right.
home. And our son, walks around with tools because dad
Oh my
fixes things.
God, that's cute.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Me too. I'm just like, I used to be like that too. Just like trash needs to go out this very second. But
Right
then
now.
I'm just like, have to just like, okay, all right, maybe I guess it could wait a minute,
Yeah.
10 minutes.
Yes.
I,
Yeah.
I,
I know. I'm very, I think it can come up very aggressive, right? Because I'm just headstrong about getting things done. And so that's also self-awareness, right?
and I think because in the back of your head, you have there's a million
Mhm.
other things in your to-do
Mhm.
list, plus running a
Mhm.
family, plus doing EO
Yeah.
and stuff like that. Like
Yeah.
it's almost just
I
like,
had somebody, we were having this conversation the other day. I said, before I was an entrepreneur, and I think a lot of our young girls fall into this category, um, I was too much. I was too loud. I was, all of the things that, especially ADHD, impulsive, little wild, hyper girls get. Oh, you're just too much. Oh, you're a lot. That before being an entrepreneur, that's how I felt. And then post being in this entrepreneur world, we're all too much. Like,
or we're normal,
yeah,
like
and we feel
like
normal all of a sudden.
we're among a tribe of people who
Yeah,
are
yeah,
normal. It's
normal.
natural to want to get things done. It's just to me, yeah, I still don't understand.
Yeah,
How are you not productive?
yeah. I don't, and so I don't feel abnormal
Right.
anymore. And I think it's because of just finding your tribe of people who are like you, who are
Yeah.
living the same space, which is what
Yeah.
has been so amazing about EO, especially
Yeah.
EO women
Yeah.
and women who are going through the same journeys.
Yeah, you feel like you belong because,
Mhm.
you still wanna, you're ambitious, but you still wanna have a family life, like it's
Yeah,
and you still wanna take care of yourself, so, yeah, that's why I
yeah,
love EO so much.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. It's been a great journey for sure.
What are you looking forward to in 2024?
I'm looking forward to in 24. I've got some revenue goals I want to hit before my 41st birthday because I just turned 40 in September.
Happy
So
birthday.
yeah, and doing the things to make it happen. Like I think EO has taught me not to be afraid of good debt, not to be afraid of what you got to do to scale and to get there. And so I think that through all of these transitions that I've just gone through in like end of Q3, Q4 this year, I'm really looking forward to 24, not being done with 23 because I feel like some really great things came out of it, but to take those lessons in January and get through our busy season and just go where I know we need to go.
Yeah. I think it's so great. There was that one book, I think it was like the Growth Dilemma. Did you
Oh, I
ever
haven't
read
read
that?
that one. Mm-mm.
Yeah, and so he talks about like, we get debt because we have a house, but if you
Mm-hmm.
actually put that debt into a business, it could like
Mm-hmm.
10 times your money,
Yeah.
not just like a couple
Yeah.
of, tens of thousands of dollars. Like it could really make a huge difference. So
Yeah.
I completely agree.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I'll have to read that because we're headed that way. And
Yeah.
I think to that place where you just have to feel it, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Ami Kassar, he's also part of EO Philadelphia. I think he wrote that book, and
Okay.
he's like an ink contributor. But I thought that that was so because sometimes, especially for me, like coming from an Asian family, like you have to pay everything cash, it's just
Yeah.
and just save, 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 and just so it made when he showed like this is where your money could potentially go, like showing the hockey stick of like where this is where your revenue could go if you
Mm-hmm.
actually spent money on marketing or spent
Yeah.
money on finding the right people or spending money on bringing in a team that will help you, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Exactly. Yeah. Totally agree. I'll have to read that because I'm ready. Right. And I think it's just you kind of watch the evolution
Yeah.
of the business. So being the baby business owner
Yeah.
and everything is no, no, I don't have any debt, and whatever, and then seeing where that can take you. But EOs, I think, taught me all of that.
Yeah. Yeah. And how did your husband hear about EO as an accelerator?
I think he had a friend who was in it, like in his industry, who was in EO,
Yeah.
because somebody had invited him to it.
Yeah. It's one of those
Um,
hidden gems, because
mhm.
I think, how I found EO. My friend who's an entrepreneur sat next to an EO or coming from Boston to LA. And then she told me about it. I joined and she didn't. Like, isn't that
Mhm.
random? Like,
Yeah,
but once you're an EO, you're just like, thank goodness that I
yeah,
have EO.
you do.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. So, speaking, my friend, well, she's like one of my people I can't live without now, but I went to the EO Central Women's Retreat in September, and she and I had connected on WhatsApp. We didn't know each other. We're planning on taking a taxi from the airport. We landed about the same time to the retreat center. Sure, we'll share a cab, whatever. She sat next to me on my plane,
That's random.
and she flew in from San Diego, and I left from Dallas. Her
Wow.
plane was connecting San Diego to Dallas, Dallas to Asheville. And she was sitting next to me when I got on in Dallas.
That is random,
Oh my God. Like we literally, ever since that moment,
right? Kismet or whatever.
yeah,
Like,
so,
right?
so kismet. Yeah,
Right.
absolutely. Yes.
That is random
Hmm.
of all the seats in the
Yeah.
plane.
And then
The
her
odd,
plane on the way home got delayed. And so they had to reroute her. She was supposed to go through Charlotte. They rerouted her through Dallas. So we just made them sit us next to each other.
wow. See? See?
It is very
The,
kismet.
the universe.
Yes.
I think because we learn so much from women entrepreneurs. A lot of times when I talk to women entrepreneurs that I'm mentoring, because they don't associate with women entrepreneurs, I said, you have to listen to the podcast because
Yeah.
this is where you learn. I learn
Yeah.
more by going to an event, maybe not from
Hmm.
the speaker, but by talking to people
Oh, yeah.
that are
Yeah.
there. Do
Yeah.
you feel the same way too?
Yes. Oh, absolutely. Yeah. And
Yeah.
I think there's something really special that happens when women entrepreneurs get together because we get to that top 5% like immediately. And then we're crying and we're like, I mean, we're just there because all of a sudden we're with a tribe of people who get what we're doing. Um, and I've gotten so much out of MyEO women. And for that, it's a huge passion of mine because such special things happen in those rooms when we get together.
Yeah, I went to a whole bunch of women EO, prior to COVID. Like
Hmm.
I went to Greece, and
Yeah,
it was just so wonderful to be able, and Napa as well
yeah,
too. So it's just so
yeah,
great to be able to be part of that tribe because,
yeah.
like you said, that they really understand
Mhm.
what you're
They do.
going
And I
through.
haven't done any of the international summits yet because it was COVID. And then I've got, this tiny human at home. So I'm not going on these massive international trips right now. I can't wait to go on one. But we have done and are hoping to kind of spread this throughout all of the regions, doing these region retreats because it gives people and it gives women an opportunity or gives women or women supporters an opportunity to come together and do, a couple of days retreat and be together like that without, if you're not at a place in life to go to 7, 10 days in, I think it was Singapore this year
Yeah,
coming up, I think.
yeah.
Yeah.
Are you going? I'm going. I'm
Yeah.
going.
I am not because tiny human, right? So tiny
Yeah,
human. So hopefully in a couple more years, I'll be ready to make those massive overseas trips.
yeah.
But that was also a decision I had to come to, right? Which
Right,
was huge
right.
for me to say, I have one kid, I'm having one kid. He's really small. I did all of the travel, all of the partying, all of the networking prior to him being in my life. And then just going through that decision process on what felt right for me. And right now, when he's so little, I decided that that wasn't in the cards right now, and it's not my season to do that. And that came with its own kind of set of pressures because people encourage, especially like when you're moving in EO leadership, they're like, go to this, go to this, go to this. I'm like, I don't want to, right? I finally had to get to the place and the realization that I didn't want to do it. I wasn't comfortable doing it, and that there will be a season for me to do that. But right now, my season is not massive international travel without my tiny human.
I mean, that is so wise, and then you also don't feel guilty like leaving as well too, right? Which is what a lot of people do too. It's just like, okay, they feel obligated.
Yeah. And I felt great when I went to do this retreat in Nashville for a few
Right.
days, and it fit into what my value system was comfortable with.
Exactly. A couple of days rather than like 10 days, right? Makes
Hmm.
such a huge difference.
Yeah.
Yeah. Do you have
Yeah.
any advice for women? Because I don't know if you know the stat, but there are 15 million male entrepreneurs, but only 12 million female entrepreneurs. So there's
Hmm.
a 3 million entrepreneur gap. What type of advice would you give to someone who's thinking about starting a business,
Hmm.
wanting to start a business?
Let's say even finding a group. I hear you say that stat, and even with it being a 3 million difference, I think we should see more EO women because that stat is not even reflected in EO.
True.
So my advice would be getting involved with something like EO, whether it's an accelerator program or a full EO or wherever you're at, and building, tapping into that tribe, because there's so much growth and experience that you get from others who have already done it and that you can turn to. Because when you do start to grow, it does start to get really lonely at the top, right? Like you can't let all of those feelings go to everyone in your company, because then they are like, oh my God, when really it's just all this crap we go through in our head and they don't quite understand it. And all they hear is that we're freaking out and the company's unstable because you're unstable.
Well, what about those who don't qualify for accelerator right now?
Yeah, I think finding, so there's a group of women. We just did an event last week with Global Entrepreneurship Week here in Fort Worth, and it was 70, 80 women who were in a room. The event was called She Thrives Here. I think there are female entrepreneur events happening in your community. Find them, go to them, make friends with the people who are sitting next to you at the table and also owning businesses. There are a lot of things that are not having to qualify for EO that you can get involved in. I mean, my mentor owns my co-working space, and she's been there for me through so many facets of my business. And I've grown grown with her. We've grown together. And just being able to have somebody to turn to, and I say somebody, having another woman in business to turn to and ask her these really tough questions. I think it's just find your tribe.
How did you find your mentor?
I talk to everyone, and I have no filter. And so, but I mean, for the most part, like my friend Tamara, who owns the co-working space, she and I have just bonded over the years, and we start asking the questions. But I think it's also paying attention to who who fits your energy and who fits your ambition, right? Because I have been in female business groups that maybe, or female social groups that weren't exactly um, where I was going. And so I found a different group. I needed to be, for me, finding a mentor, finding the tribe. I had to surround myself with women who were doing big things because I want to do big things. But I've also been speaking to groups of women and telling them to define success for themselves. So your level of success doesn't have to be doing big things, but it's about finding synergy within that tribe.
What is success to you?
I right now, and I think it changes, right? So I think in the beginning, my passion and success for my business was growing the clients, helping the clients. And now it's empowering the women who work for me and seeing them be successful. I mean, I have my own revenue goals, but those revenue goals are really driven by being able to pay them more and help them grow and succeed. And so I think that piece of it is the immediate payoff, but the success is kind of the long-term goal too, right? Like, what do I want to do eventually with my business, and where does that why what's my why in building all of this? And I think for me, it's eventually selling and then leaving a legacy and the lifestyle that I want my family to have, but also knowing that we're not ignoring having a life as a family now because of my business and my husband's business.
One of my farm mates, when she was talking about her life's intentions, is to have a close knit family. And it's so interesting because sometimes we don't even say it out loud. It's just like we think it's a given. But the fact that you actually make it one of your life's goals or life's intentions, it really makes a difference. Like we
Mm-hmm.
cannot not have the success without our family thriving.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. But I think for me, I think a lot of people can fall into the trap of working the 10, 12-hour days, working the 10, 12-hour days, and missing what's right in front of them and waiting for the payoff down the road. But I think there's payoff now.
Right.
And it's just finding the balance.
You'll never
No,
regret staying home, or not staying home, but not doing that international
mm,
travel,
yeah,
because you've got your priorities
yeah.
straight.
And it was a huge decision for me to make because I was, supposed to go on this trip and there's pressure to do this and pressure to do that. And I was like, I don't want to. It's also a little
Yeah.
empowering to
Yes.
be able to do that, deep journey and self-discovery and say, it doesn't feel right. I don't want to. So no.
Yeah. 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 Rather than succumbing to
Yeah.
EO peer
Pressure.
pressure.
Yeah.
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 Because everyone else goes, right? And then they
Mhm.
start sharing photos and you're like, oh, I wish I could do that. But
Yeah.
no, you know
Yeah.
what's important to you. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah. I think it's in that part of that too, is just the self-discovery of your own values and listening to yourself. And I can and listening to your gut. Every time I don't listen to my gut, I should have.
So true. How
Yeah.
do you determine whether or not it's like your intuition or like monkey mind, or fear,
Hmm.
because a lot of times when people do say, I listen to my gut, they're scared. How do you
Hmm.
distinguish?
Yeah. I think it's meditation. And for me, it's meditation. It's thinking through it. It's discussing it with, the trusted advisors. Um, and then the older I get, the more I'm able to just determine and I think too, it's where am I feeling it? Is it here or is it, here? And
When did you
learning
start
where.
your, uh
Yeah, go ahead.
when did you start your meditation practice?
Oh gosh, I was living in East, so I'm in Fort Worth now. I was living in East Dallas in my late 20s. So probably 10, 12 years ago, I got into a really, for lack of better words, crunchy circle in East Dallas of people who were hosting drum circles and yoga meditations and just really cool stuff. And that really kind of sparked my interest. And I had been doing yoga a few years before that. I realized that the part I liked the best of yoga was the laying on the floor at the end part. I was like,
Corpse pose.
oh, yeah, okay, meditation. And so just really kind of surrounding myself with those people and getting involved into that different side of spirituality that I had never really discovered or known anything about. And then I figured out that the more I learned about it, I figured out that my dad, when we were babies, when he would put us to sleep, he would walk us through meditation. I
Wow.
was like, Dad, did you know you were doing that? He's like, oh yeah, I kind of did some stuff, in my 20s. And then you guys just trying to settle you down. You were restless. They'll put your toes to sleep, put your feet to sleep. Yeah. I was like, oh my God, of course
That's
you were
called a
doing that.
body scan, Dad.
Yeah. Yeah.
Wow.
So I had no idea. I didn't put it all together. I don't know that he even really put it all together either. But so we did kind of got into that. And then when I moved to Fort Worth, kind of had a gap in my it took me a while to find my people over here, but once I found them, that circle just keeps growing once you kind of tap in. But just going to those, and I don't get to do as many of the circles and fun drum gong meditations or sound healing. I did do a whole sound healing coaching thing with a local coach here last year, and I've done a few sessions since, and I love sound healing. But just those kind of self-care things for me, and then carving out, whether it's just a few more minutes in the morning, and in busy toddler life, sometimes it is 5 or 6 minutes.
So
And the
that's
morning.
really your superpower. I mean, now I know
Mhm.
when you go slow, you go fast, don't you?
Yeah, yeah, it's helpful. Otherwise, it's the brain just. And sometimes, when you're really stressed out, it's I use Insight Timer a lot, and I'll
I
turn on
love.
kind of oh, I love Insight Timer. Sometimes I just turn the TV off, I lay in my bed, and I know I'm not ready to go to sleep yet, but maybe I play one of those for 30 minutes or an hour.
Do you know Sarah Blondin on Insight Timer? My
No, I just kind of
favorite.
scroll and pick.
My
I don't
favorite.
follow
And
her.
another EOer in Canada told me about it, and it's just the best. So Sarah Blondin, everyone who's
Yeah.
listening, Sarah Blondin.
I'll have to go find her. Yeah, I love that stuff.
Yeah.
I do. The sound healing is not. It's helpful, but it's not quite the same as doing it in person because when you lay on the floor and they like have the bowls and stuff, the vibrations are amazing.
I love sound baths.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I think I just went to a half-day yoga retreat last week, and I'm learning to be a
Yeah.
meditation teacher too. So that I just love that we also have that same thing in common.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. I think
It's
it's really good
crazy.
to have those habits,
Mm-hmm.
like it's really brain training in my opinion. Don't you think? Training
Yeah,
your
and I
brain.
think it's not only your self practice, but for me, it's bringing in healers. Like I have the sound healer, and then I have a friend who does a treatment with crystals and all of these glorious products and sprays and sensory things that she makes. She's very Native American based, and there's massage and smudging, and yeah, her treatments are I
You
love them.
belong in
So
California where I am.
yeah, you're not the first person to tell me that.
Right? Right?
Yeah, you're
But
not
the
the
fact
first
that you
person.
found your tribe there, right?
Yeah.
You
Oh,
had to
yeah.
seek it out.
Right. Yep. It was easier in East Dallas than it was when I moved to Fort Worth. But when I moved to Fort Worth, I had to like find them. And actually, she married me and my husband. She's a good friend of mine, and she's a healer.
Oh.
She does the treatments I was talking about. I found her at a pop up, and she had all of her products for sale. And I pretty much stalked her at pop ups until she became my friend, and she invited me to a full moon ceremony. And I was like, I'm in.
I love full moon ceremonies.
Yeah. So
Oh,
she's still a really close friend.
yeah. I think it's so important to be able to be connected to nature like that, to sage, like
Mhm.
so. Yeah. And I also do, I mean, there was just like a full moon just recently. And I always join my friend who does these full moon,
Mhm.
you know, things. And also energy card readings, I think is also really important too.
Yeah, yeah, I love it. That's my wheelhouse for sure.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. Well, thank you so much for spending so much time talking about being an entrepreneur, being a mom, being an incredible leader at EO, and showing us how you do it. So to recap, right? You meditate, you have a lot of these healing
Mhm.
practices. You're also self reflective. You're just like, hey, wait, what happened there? Not
Yeah.
blaming anyone, right?
Yeah,
Using your intuition, right?
yeah.
Understanding the difference between using your intuition and, thinking about that it's fear based. So you are
And
just
tribe,
on your way.
all tribe, so
Oh
much
yeah.
tribe,
Yeah.
so much
Yeah.
tribe.
Yeah. Yeah. Thank you so much. You're just such an incredible human. I'm so glad that we connected through LinkedIn, I think, right?
Yeah. Well, thank you for asking me on. It's been fun.
Yeah. And hope that everything works out with that person who disappeared yesterday. I don't know.
So it's also that level of understanding, right? And going, okay, breathe, and
Why has
checking the
she gone?
head and checking the heart
Yeah.
and saying which one is freaking out here.
Like, where is she? Should I file a missing persons
Yeah,
report?
yeah, yeah.
Right?
I have discovered that she has been seen.
Oh,
So
okay. Okay,
and so
good.
I'm like, all right, I'm just gonna try and be patient here. So
Right. She did not
that's
get
understanding
kidnapped.
somebody else's journey too, right?
Yeah. 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 I think that's so important. I'm headed to a silent retreat in 2 weeks, so I'm excited for that.
I've never done that. That's so intimidating.
Oh, you should do it. You're prepared for it. I
Yeah.
had a one EOer who'd never meditated before, and he did a silent retreat. He did great.
Hmm.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah. How fun. I'll have to look at it.
yeah.
So thank
Spirit rock.
you. I appreciate you spending time with me.
Yeah. I know that you're really busy with all that stuff going on, but thank you. Everyone else will get a lot from our conversation.
Good.
Thanks, Leslie.
Okay. Bye.
Bye.